Hello and welcome to the Passion Driven Pioneers interview series. I'm your host, John Channon, and today I'm joined by Michelle Elster, who is the CEO of Rabin Roberts Research. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, nice to see you.
Good. Would you like to kick us off with a brief background as to who you are, what you do, and then the business that you're in?
Yeah, happy to. So I am CEO and owner of Rabin Roberts Research. We are a full service market research company. We do qualitative and quantitative research for companies around the world in all verticals and in both the B2B and B2C sectors. Is there anything else you'd like to know?
No, I think that's great. That's a good background. Now, what was maybe the spark that led you to Rabin Roberts? Because I know you were a part of the, I think, American Marketing Association in the past. So help me
Oh,
understand all that.
yeah, yeah.
What brought
Oh,
you there?
yes. So interesting. So, yeah. So the my journey into market research started in the mid '80s. Just to date myself a little bit, I started my career. I got my bachelor's degree in advertising, my MBA in marketing and international business, and my dreams were to always work in the advertising industry. Life gets in the way sometimes and you have to pivot and make adjustments. And so it was not going to be my long-term my long-term career. So I was given the opportunity to join this company, Rabin Research Company, which is what the name of it was at the time. My father started this company
Oh,
in
wow.
1963, and I never thought I would be doing this. Like I said, life happens and sometimes you have to make adjustments. And so I joined the company in 1985 at the very lowest rung in the ladder and had to work my way up, which is exactly what happened. And I joined, senior management, I don't even remember what year it was, but in 2015, I became the owner of the company. And in 2023, I acquired and closed on another research company called Cooper Roberts Research. And hence we've merged the two companies and renamed the company as Rabin Roberts Research. And now I am the sole owner of the company. And we have expanded our staff and now have kind of coast to coast coverage, if you want to call it that. We're in all time zones. And so, yeah, that was my journey. I mean, this is how I got here. And I make no, I don't claim to have gotten here on my own. There's no possible way I could have. It's all about, kind of accepting the opportunities that come your way and allowing people to help you and become kind of the best person you can be and do the best in your career that you can be. And I was very fortunate to have that in my father.
That's great. Maybe share with us a little bit about what that transition was like, where you went from being an employee to being the owner, and what were some of the things you needed to make sure that you did to make that successful?
It's a really, really good question because I'll tell you, it was not easy. But it was kind of an evolution because when I became part of senior management, um, and my father is quite elderly now. He was in his 80s when he retired, which is, unheard of, right? So, but as he was kind of slowly progressing into retirement, I kind of, stepped into the role and was sort of, helping him run the business, not alone. There's other senior managers in the company, but I started kind of transitioning into that role very slowly. So it was kind of an evolution to become the I was first president and now I am CEO of the company. But it was an evolution. So I kind of learned as I was going about financial management, about personnel management, about operations. The biggest and the hardest adjustment really was kind of realizing that, hey, the buck stops here.
Hmm.
I'm 100% responsible for everyone who works for me and the clients that come to us and entrust their studies to us. And so I would say that responsibility weighed very heavily on my shoulders. And I would say that one of the biggest challenges really was the financial management of the company because it was like it was never mine. It wasn't mine until it was mine, and then it was kind of scary, that that I was responsible for such a big, kind of venture. And so I think it did take me a little bit longer than I thought it would to get comfortable in the role. But now I'm cruising.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, yeah,
So you got comfortable in the role,
yeah,
and then a few years later, you're making an acquisition. Talk
that's
to us
right.
a little bit about the uh, why that was a good way for you to grow your business, and what maybe were you looking for to acquire as a result of that?
Yeah, also a great question. Thank you. Yeah, so um, what happened was, I would say it was maybe about 2 years pre-pandemic, and I was at a wedding in Napa with my husband. And through the American Marketing Association, which you mentioned earlier, I have developed some unbelievably great friends. I mean, some lifelong friends. And Ken Roberts, who was the owner of Cooper Roberts Research, was living at the time in Sonoma. So since I was going to be up in wine country anyway, I called Ken. I said, "Would you like to join my husband and I for lunch or something?" And he said, "Yeah, I'd love to." So he drove out. And as we were sitting there and talking, he is a few years older than I am, and he and his husband were trying to fully retire together. And his husband Gary had already retired, and so Ken was looking for a kind of an exit strategy, and he approached me. And honestly, I'm not sure I would have even thought of it had he
Really?
not come to me. No, I don't think it would, well, at least not at that time. I didn't think it would, I just wasn't ready. I was just taking over the company. It was still kind of early in my role. And so he said, let's talk about this. Are you interested? And I'm such a dummy, He said, "Would you like to kind of take over my clients?" And I thought, "Oh, he's just going to hand me the client." And so I'm like, sure, what do I have to lose? So we started talking, and sure enough, he really wanted, the buyout. He really was looking for a buyout. So I'm very fortunate that I have a husband who's also a business attorney. And so he was a major help to me in structuring the deal and negotiating everything. And sure enough, 2019, November of 2019, went back to Sonoma, and Ken and I spent a number of days together, signed an NDA, opened our books to each other, and kind of learned how we were always friendly competitors, and we always assisted one another in projects when we needed extra help, or if we needed resources or didn't know who to go to. And so Ken and I were very close friends. And so it was really easy for me and I felt very comfortable talking to him about the operations of our company. And he sharing that information with me. And so what we found is that we were quite similar in the way we were structured, the way we operated, the kinds of clients we had, the kind of revenue we had, um, except for one really important thing, that he had become fully remote a number of years prior. And he said, "If this is going to work, you're going to have to do it because my employees are not, first of all, they're not in Chicago, which is where I live." And that was where my company was based. So I said, "Okay, if you will mentor me through this, I think I can do it." And it took me a while to figure out that I could do it because I saw how he did things. And then sure enough, he helped me through the whole thing.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, it was great. But what happened was when we started the discussions in November of 2019, I gave notice to my landlord that we were going to be leaving in April of 2020.
Ooh.
We were all set to go by March. Thank God.
No kidding.
And
That's
then,
wow,
then,
fortunate timing.
yeah, incredible. I wish I could say I'm as lucky in life as I was in that decision. But in March of 2020, when the world shut down, we were ready to go. Everybody was just picked up their laptops and went home, and that was it. Um, so he really helped me through everything. But we had to kind of stop the talks and stop the planning because who knew what the world was going to be like at the end of the pandemic?
Hmm.
And so we just kind of stalled everything until things started picking up again. And then he said, "Okay, let's do this." And I said, "Okay, let's do this." So we got going, and we finally closed in 2023. And 1 year later, he retired.
Well, congratulations on that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank It's a long story, but that's the way it happened. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. It just basically goes to show you that relationships matter
Oh my God.
in
And
business
when
in
you,
particular.
yeah. And when you asked about the AMA, all I can tell you is that there is no way I would have this kind of career without it. And the reason I say that is because when I first started in the company as a very, very junior person, as I mentioned, my father, who had been actively involved in the American Marketing Association as president of the Chicago chapter and president of the national organization, said, "This organization helped me build my career." And he said, "I strongly think that the only way you're going to get immersed in this industry is by stepping right into it." And so I volunteered like the first week I was an employee at the company. And within 5 years, I think it was, I became president of the Chicago chapter. And very soon after that, I was chairman of the National Association. And along the way, I met some of the most incredible people. And you know how they say birds of a feather flock together? I think that's why we all are such close friends, is because we all have so much in common and we help one another all the time. I mean, I get calls all the time from people who I've known through AMA. And so it was one of the greatest things I could have done. Absolutely, and highly recommend it.
All right. Well, that's great. So I'm going to shift gears here a little bit and ask you about
Sure.
innovation. And are there any strategies that you're using in your business to remain innovative in your industry? Because I'm sure there's a lot of change going on.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I laugh about when we first took data collection to the internet. I mean, imagine, right? We couldn't have done it alone, right? Because there's no possibility. We weren't big enough to develop our own technology and everything. So I um I did then what I'm doing now, and that is each time a new technological advancement emerges in our industry, I find the best partner, someone who's already done all the legwork for us, who's done all the development for us, has done all the innovating for us, and I find them and I partner with them. And so I never have to develop or acquire anything. I just have to partner. And so every new technological advancement can be mine. And all I have to do is partner with a company who's got that. I mean, I pay for it, but it's totally worth it. And it's far less risky than trying to develop something on my own.
Oh, that's great. Good.
That's
Well,
that's my that was has always been my strategy since the first time I had to kind of dive head first into a new technology, and I will continue to do that.
I appreciate you sharing that with us. So let's talk a little bit about the future. So could you offer a glimpse into your future plans and goals that you have for your business?
Future plans and goals. So I'm a little concerned about the economy, not tremendously so, but a little concerned about the economy. And so yeah, I mean, I'm not freaking out yet. So but my goal is to sort of, figure out what's going to be. What is this business world going to look like with a new uh, government running our country? And I don't think we know that yet. I think there is a lot to kind of watch and see, and try and figure out how that might affect us. If we have to make adjustments, we're going to. I'm not going anywhere. I am seriously, committed to continuing my business, and I have hopes that at some point in the future I'll be able to retire and or sell my company. I just don't know yet, but we're not there yet, and I don't have a succession plan in place. So I'm truthfully just kind of taking a wait and see attitude and just plodding along and serving our clients the way that we always have. Super high quality with really experienced people. Nobody gets a junior person. There is no junior person in my company. That was actually been a major shift from the way I used to do business to the way I do it now, was that we used to hire people right out of school and train them. But
Hmm.
with a fully remote company, that is extremely difficult to do.
Well, that's interesting.
So I followed in my Yeah, I followed in Ken's footsteps, and he had only mid-tier to senior level people in the company. And so I kept it that way. And through natural attrition, people left or quit or whatever, got other jobs and all kinds of things. And so I just let them go. And once they were gone, I shut the door on that idea.
Oh, that's great. So, knowing that this show is going to be targeted towards people who are going to be in their first few years of business, do you have any final thoughts or words
Yeah.
of advice you'd like to share with our audience today?
Yeah. Yeah. I would say, I mean, my number one recommendation to people is do not shy away from networking. Networks are one of the most important things a professional person can do. Never be afraid to ask for help. Ask. If you don't ask, you never know. You're not going to get what you need. People aren't going to hand you anything. You've got to ask. If people say, I have a friend in XYZ, let me make an introduction for you. Maybe they have some ideas for you. That's all part of building your network. I remember this is just personal experience. I remember, in my kids were starting out in their careers and they said, oh, I've got a friend in so and so. Would you like me to introduce you to them? And one of my kids would say, I'm a little old for play dates, you know. And I thought, okay, do it your way. Do it your way. I'm gonna step back. I offered. If somebody offers, take them up on it. Honest to God, there is my first job out of school wouldn't have happened without my father. Back then we were sending letters. My father sent a letter as an introduction to an ad agency to a friend in the research department. I wasn't even applying for a research job. And he said, of course. And then I followed up with him and he said, of course, I'll pass this along to the president of the agency. And I got me the interview. It didn't get me the job. It got me the interview. And then I had to sell myself. Never be afraid to take someone up on an offer.
Well, that's great. That's great. Listen, thank you so much for your time today, Michelle.
My pleasure.
Yeah, it was great meeting you and learning more about your journey and more about the industry as well. And to everyone watching, I look forward to seeing you in our next episode.